Rachel Bade is a congressional reporter for Politico. She joins us now. Rachel, for the Republicans who are withholding their support, what are their concerns?
I think what we're seeing right now is the conservatives trying to use their leverage to make the bill more conservative. The four that you mentioned coming out against the bill yesterday, they pointedly made an intention to say that, they're ready to negotiate. And my sources tell me this is sort of one of their last attempts to push the bill further right. They're advocating for this amendment specifically that would allow insurance companies to offer not only just plans that are compliant with Obamacare regulations, but also plans that are not compliant, which would be cheaper for younger, healthier people. So this is what they're pushing for right now. That's why you're seeing some of this opposition. I will say that a lot of our sources were surprised they didn't see more opposition to this, more a firm no from them, as opposed to, we don't like this, but we're ready to negotiate.
Rachel, we just had up the four senators who have said they have reservations about this, but they're willing to negotiate. I wonder, from your standpoint, whether this is just political posturing or whether you would actually expect to see the Republicans not able to get the 50 votes that they need to pass this.
This is going to be very tricky. There's no doubt about it. I would note that in the House, it took 7 weeks from when they actually dropped the bill to actually getting it passed, and that's because you saw conservatives hold out their support. Then moderates were concerned because the bill was pushed too far right. So they're going to do a vote next week, so we hear, and that very possibly could fail. However, maybe they come back and try it again after the recess. I think that you're seeing both sides trying to move the bill in their direction, and it's going to be tricky. And we also have to watch the CBO score that comes out next week, which will say how many Americans will lose their insurance from this proposal. That, if it's a very high number like the House number, which was 23 million, we're going to see some moderates peel off potentially. So I do think it's going to be several more weeks, even though we have a vote next week. I'm skeptical that it passes next week, but that's not to say they can't figure out a way to do it in the coming month or so.
When you look at these medical groups, AARP, the American Lung Association, the American Hospital Association, they're all coming out against this. So if you were to outline, Rachel, the real winners and the losers of this bill, who would they be?
Winners, I would say, first and foremost, wealthier individuals. There's going to be a whole bunch of Obamacare taxes that are repealed, and a lot of those taxes were obviously slapped on healthier individuals to help pay for the subsidies, et cetera, for low-income earners. So wealthier individuals, for sure. In terms of losers, Planned Parenthood, obviously they keep a provision in the bill that would defund Planned Parenthood for a year. This is something Republicans have wanted to do for a long time, and they're going to be able to do it through this bill. However, that could repel a bunch of moderates. There are two in particular we're watching in the Senate, Susan Collins of Maine and also Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, who are both ardent defenders of Planned Parenthood. So we'll see about that. When you talk about the industry, all these groups coming out against the bill, AARP that you mentioned, the reason they're doing that is because the bill allows insurance companies to charge older Americans up to 5 times as much as they charge younger Americans. Previously, under Obamacare, they could only charge 3 times as much higher. So older individuals are going to see their health insurance costs go up. Yeah. And overall, I would say the health insurance industry has in a way benefited from Obamacare, because Obamacare required every American to purchase insurance. Now they're not going to have that requirement anymore, so fewer people will buy.
And shrinking Medicaid, of course, will also have that effect on American hospitals. Rachel, President Trump says he is very supportive of this Senate bill. Here he is on Fox just this morning.
I think we're going to get there. We have 4 very good people that, it's not that they're opposed, they'd like to get certain changes, and we'll see if we can take care of that.
So what role, if any, do we expect President Trump to play in negotiating this in the Senate?
We hear that he's going to start making calls. It sounds like he thinks he can be more useful in getting on those 4 conservatives we just talked about, who have come out and said they oppose the current draft but would like to negotiate. So we think he will be in touch with them. When it comes to moderates, probably not as much sway. Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, the ones I mentioned, probably not going to be able to move them very far. The interesting thing to watch, I think, is that his sway is limited in the Senate, I would say. Whereas in the House, a lot of House members, he won their districts by wide margins. A lot of them are a little bit fearful of the president. The senators are elected for 6 years, so they have a degree of independence, and sort of this stance where they won't be as much influenced as House members. So we'll see how much the president can really bring people on board.
I was sort of surprised, Rachel, at how when the president came out in this interview, he didn't come forward and lash out at these 4 senators. It's sometimes a tactic that he uses when people sort of stand in the way, even within his own party. Were you surprised that he took a more conciliatory tone?
I think that was very smart of him because, again, these senators are not so easily pushed around. I think that turning up the heat on some of the Freedom Caucus and the conservatives, that certainly had an effect on them. A lot of them were not happy to be pointed at and said, you are the reason Obamacare is still here and is not going to be repealed. This softer tone he's taking with the Senate, I think, is smarter because these are guys who, again, you push too hard and it might have the reverse effect that he's trying to have on them.
I did write The Art of the Deal. Rachel Bade, thanks a lot.
Thank you.